This is a serious FAFO if I have ever seen one, and we all love the Find Out season stories. So let's look at this. She posted this in the True Off My Chest subreddit saying, "My husband is ending our marriage because we weren't intimate as often as he wanted. And so far it isn't going like he planned, and I'm not surprised, but I am hurt. Talk about getting what you asked for and being upset about it." She says, "I was originally going to make another post with this account, but that never happened. So here I am further down the line in this situation, just venting, not asking for advice, as all decisions have already been made. My husband, who's 37, and I, 34-year-old woman, have been together for 6 years, married for 3. We have had a very happy relationship. Even he says so. We share a lot of hobbies and get along extremely well. We never fight, only have disagreements sometimes. We split the chores evenly, contribute to bills proportionally, and generally like doing all the same things for entertainment. What's the problem then? This doesn't sound like the typical Reddit post of he's really great except for how horrible he is, because it isn't. He's truly a great partner and a kind and thoughtful person. The problem is a difficult but common one: sex. He wasn't getting it as often as he would have liked, and I don't mean we had a dead bedroom. We were having sex once a week. I was making sure of it because he had expressed these concerns before. When we started dating, I knew we were going to have mismatched sex drives. Mine is pretty low and has been an issue in some previous relationships. I'm pretty neutral on sex and could go months without it and be perfectly fine. And before anyone says anything, no, it isn't a hormonal problem. I've been to doctors, and it isn't because I've never had good sex. I have. This is just how I am." He didn't seem to mind, in the beginning anyway. Over time, he seemed to get a bit more frustrated with it, so we talked about it and as a compromise, decided that sex would happen once a week. I could handle that much. And that's what's been happening until a few months ago when he said he was still feeling frustrated and really wanted it every other day or a few times a week. I said I couldn't do that. That's why we went once a week, because that's what I could handle. He said he didn't think he could be happy like that after 6 years. It took you 6 years and getting married to figure that out. And here we are now, separated. Him moved out. See, it was my house we were living in that I bought before I met him. It's also my pets we were living with that I had before I met him. We had a happy home and a happy little family. No kids yet, but we were talking about it. Now half of his things are in storage because he has a few hobbies that take up a lot of space, and he can't fit everything into the tiny apartment he had to get. He had to sell his antique car because he couldn't park it at his new place, and I wouldn't let him keep it here. He's also complaining about money now because I make more than twice what he makes, and I was paying more than half of the bills. I'm not sure if he started looking to date. I told him I didn't care if he did while we were getting the divorce going. I know he wasn't cheating. He was very loyal, so there's no other woman he had on the line already. I'm sure he'll sort it out and get it settled eventually. But for now, he lives alone in a cramped apartment that doesn't allow pets and almost none of the things that he did for fun, getting no sex at all because once a week wasn't good enough. Are you kidding? She says, "Don't get me wrong, I'm taking no pleasure in it, but it's just kind of funny to me. Like, you picked this and now you're miserable. I've spent the last few months being devastated and upset beyond belief, and I'm starting to pick myself up now and realize how ridiculous the situation actually is. He's a really good person, but maybe kind of an idiot." As I was listening to her story, I don't really see that there are any bad guys. They had different libidos, and that happens with people. But like she said, they could have discussed this in the very beginning because she knew that she had a low libido, and he must have known that he had a higher level libido. And this is the reason why you can't just connect and think that some of these things will sort themselves out. Because with sex, it's like you need the other person to be an excited yes, not just a, "Oh, here, take it." You don't want that. But the thing that I see with him, He wanted out, and he wanted out pretty much in that moment. It sounds like he was probably an impulsive person that didn't game plan. And when you don't game plan, this is what you end up getting. He didn't have enough money to take care of all of the things that he needed, and so this is where you are. This is what we talked about just in the beginning, or what I said in the very beginning. Sometimes when you get what you're asking for, you don't like it. She said he's miserable, but this is what he chose, so he has to live with his own choices. So this woman wasn't putting out as much as her husband would like. So let's see if they are beating her up in the comments. So Fiber Feather says, yep, I hear about this pretty frequently too. To be honest, I think the ex-husband really wanted this to work out, found out it didn't work for him in the long run, and is now having a lot of feelings about the changes. Doesn't mean it's her problem anymore. He made a choice and he has to see that through. Okay, cool. I agree with that. K Pumpkin says, I don't think it was the once a week wasn't enough for him. I think once a week would have been plenty if he felt desired and wanted, but it felt more like a chore. Taking the trash out. Had it once a week been filled with passion, I don't think this would have happened. She didn't say anything to say that she was just, flat with it. This person added some editorializing that was not there. Standard Redditor says she's talking about all the stuff she provided for him. There's no talk about her even wanting him romantically. Sounds like stuff was used as a replacement for romance, and in the end, the substitute wasn't enough. And here's the OP saying, at this point, I've grieved the relationship and look at it pretty objectively, so I can see why you think I was lacking romance towards him as well. That wasn't the case. We had regular date nights, went out or stayed in depending on what we felt like. We kissed and cuddled all the time, flirted with each other often, got gifts and flowers for each other often, had hours-long conversations about nothing and everything. The romance was there. It was quite literally just the physical act of sex that was the issue. And like I said, as I was reading this, I don't think that there's any real bad guys in this situation. But sometimes when you make a decision, it can lead to you being upset about the decision. But that doesn't make it her problem, like that other person said. This person says, I don't think he's an idiot per se, but he kind of forgot to plan his exit. Like, if you have a lot of collectibles, have a vintage car, live on your partner's property, and make way less than them, you have to know how to get your stuff out and in your own place. You can't really expect to call for a divorce for lack of sex and expect your partner to just let you keep your stuff until you figure it out. Like, it's fine that you weren't compatible and it's no one's fault. But from his side, if he knew it wasn't going to work out, he should have at least had have a place in mind to keep his car. And that's how I kind of felt about it as well. And the OP says, this is exactly what I meant by that last line. He really just didn't think ahead about the logistics and the fact that he'd be totally alone. Now it's come as a surprise, even though it shouldn't have. And this is the kind of thing that will bite men in the butt, especially if their wives have been the one that planned all of the social things, was the only person that they had to talk to. Because we've talked about man keeping before and how a man uses his wife, his romantic partner, as their everything, their therapist. They don't have very many friends to bounce things off of. So this would be a lonely existence if she was the only person. But we don't know that. This is just me conjecturing. Dot D says, I think he knew what was coming, but there wasn't an alternate. He may complain to you because he is close to you. It seems that he actually doesn't want to get divorced. He wants an intimate relationship with his wife. But that's not on the table. So he's choosing to be broke and sell his things instead of staying in a relationship where he may feel unloved and unappreciated. And then the OP says, we had an intimate relationship once a week and he decided it wasn't good enough. And I keep seeing comments like I must just be sitting there like a sack of potatoes once a week while he does what he wants to me. And it wasn't like that at all. There wasn't a time limit. Nothing was rushed. In fact, we always got off every time, except for times I told him I didn't want to and just did things for him. But that was my choice. I do believe that in situations like this, people do want to make her wrong. And the way she sounds kind of flat, like she's very analytical about it, very logical about it. She's not crying, she's not mad. That makes her come across as cold. I've seen people in the comments suggest that maybe she's asexual or maybe it's her hormones or something, when maybe this is just how she is. And maybe she's just logical and has thought about it. She did say that she has already grieved the relationship, so there's that. But y'all weigh in and let me know what you think about this one. Like, comment, and share. I'm glad that this woman jumped into my inbox. We're having a conversation about coercive sex and how men don't go for the women that want it actively. They want the women that are hesitant, the ones that say no, that they need to pressure. And so that's where she's jumping in. And I'm glad that she jumped in and said this. She says, "Hey, Burb, so I was just watching your video about that guy posting about wanting to find casual sex on dating apps, and you commented asking why not just pay for it. I have a bit of insight as I used to be one of said girls who got paid. This was back 10 years ago when my entire life revolved around my addiction, and unfortunately, that was what I had to do to afford the drugs. 10 years clean now. Congratulations on being 10 years clean. High five to you." She says, "So you're absolutely right that for most guys, it's all about turning a no to a yes. Even with SWorkers, where you can easily find a different one who will say yes to whatever that one said no to. The websites for escorts had already been booming back then, so you could literally scroll through countless ads with pics, prices, and what SMEX acts each girl was willing to do, and what's absolutely off limits. You want a curvy blonde with tattoos who will give you the girlfriend experience for X price? No problem. Here's 5 near you. You want a super skinny brunette dominatrix? Here's 2. Backdoor? Plenty who are willing, yet constantly, and I mean multiple times a day, despite clearly stating in my ads what I was okay with and what were hard no's, I'd still get calls and texts asking how much extra it would cost to do those things. The worst was when they didn't even mention anything and waited till we met for our date and tried to start haggling. This always left me in such a weird spot because do I stress that it's a big fat no, but continue on with the other agreed on activities, potentially risking them trying it anyways or overpowering me, which did happen a few times? Do I just say, nope, I'm not bothering with you at all and leave, even though I've now wasted my own time and lost money? Not to mention the times I did do that they got mad. It was actually more dangerous to try and leave than risk staying. Most of us had a buddy system kind of thing. Text a fellow escort, the address, phone number, any info you have, and how long you're supposed to be with that guy before you get there, so we could check in with each other after leaving, or blow up the guy's phone with threats to call the cops if you didn't hear from her after the agreed on time. My close girlfriends and I had each other's backs and were the only thing that kept me sane during the craziness. Well, them and the drugs. Laughing my butt off. There were some great guys, though. Those were the ones I was okay with seeing again and becoming regulars. Eventually, I built up enough of a regular customer base that I didn't have to deal with the crazy dangerous ones too often, but it took time. Just like when it comes to anything else with dudes. The decent ones are the rarity in a sea of dusty, crusty a-holes. Anyways, I just wanted to share a little experience on how even the ladies of the night have to deal with that BS. Pushy, can't take no attitude. By the way, if you happen to share any of this message, please block out my name. Love you, Burb. I will tell y'all, if you jump into my inbox and specifically, have not said to use your name, I'm going to block out people's names. When people comment on my public post or comment in public, that's when I use people's names. But if you're in my inbox, I'm not using your name. I was like, thank you for this. And she's like, no problem. You'd think that would be an easy situation for these dudes to get exactly what they want. But with those kind of guys, it's just always about getting you to agree to something you don't want. It's like consent is a turnoff to them or something. They hate boundaries. They hate the word no. We live in a grape culture. If a woman is just actively saying, I want this. So, this is what I want. I want you, daddy. I want it X, Y, and Z way. They'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Hold on now. I'm feeling a little dirty or something like that. They don't want that. They want to convince, coerce, bully, wear down, nag, all of those words instead of just getting someone that wants it freely. And that's a mess. I want you to really know and understand that boundaries of any kind, even when they are getting what they want, they do not like boundaries. We're going to keep on seeing this theme show up over and over again. So that's the reason why I definitely wanted to use her inbox and talk to y'all about this. These are a couple of comments that were underneath the YouTube video. Casey Jude says, it's never been about sex. Grape isn't either. It's about coercion, control, emotional and physical violence, and the opinions of other men. Also, they know if they use the appropriate apps, they would still strike out since lying is their only option. In their words, they bring nothing to the table. Joy says this, they want to convince her. They want the ego boost that comes from turning a good girl bad, for lack of a better phrase. It feeds their ego. Paying for it or finding a woman who is open to casual and doesn't want commitment herself doesn't give them the same ego boost. This is the same thing about grabbing up a pick-me woman who's just sitting up there like, or one of the ones that are traditional women. They don't want those women. They want to take a woman that they, like one of them liberal women, them feminists with the blue hair, and like hammer her into submission. They don't want the people that are actively, pick me. It's my turn. They don't want that. Manifest says, and he wants a roster of good women. He wants to lie and mislead a woman and move on to the next. And then Laura at the bottom says predatory and gross. The whole move on to the next situation is exactly where it is, because like this dude, he was saying that he's been successful on a few of these dates. Well, why doesn't he have repeat women? Why does he have to keep on using the apps? Because he's not good at what he's doing. They want casual sex, but they're not even good at it. All right, y'all, join the conversation. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. Listen to this title, Pressured to Not Use Condoms, Feeling Really Ashamed. So, trigger warning, as you can see that this is going to be a sensitive topic. There is coercion, there's reproductive abuse in here. So just know and understand we're doing these conversations so that we can get our voices, so that women can get some boundaries and some assertiveness in them, because many times our assertiveness, our confidence is socialized out of us. And I want us to have a voice and be stronger about our boundaries and saying no and sticking and staying with it. And I also want us to be okay with breaking up with somebody due to this type of thing. Like immediately once you start to see the red flags, don't give them access to your bodies anymore. So let's look at this post. Once again, she says, pressured to not use condoms, feeling really ashamed. She says, hi, everyone. I'm a 25-year-old woman, and I need some advice and maybe just a bit of support. I just ended a really toxic relationship. Good for her. She ended the relationship. This guy lied to me a lot. He cheated on me. And after a few weeks together, he started pressuring me to stop using condoms. He kept insisting that we could just use the pull-out method, even though he knew I wasn't on the pill at the time. I said no many times because I was scared of STIs and of getting pregnant. I said no before, during sex, and after sex when I said multiple times I was not comfortable. He said it felt better for him and that he didn't have a condom, to which I would just ask him to go buy some. But eventually, after so much pressure, I gave in. He ended up doing it a lot, once even without asking me first, and I froze in the moment. Now my period is late, and I feel so stupid, ashamed, and angry at myself. I've always been careful. I was super consistent about taking the pill or using condoms before this relationship. I don't even know why I let this happen, and I feel so guilty. The truth is, I'm not in a place where I could raise a child. I don't have the money. I don't feel ready, and he would never be involved. The thought of being pregnant is making me panic. I barely slept for days. I cry in the middle of the night, and I feel like I can't breathe sometimes. I keep blaming myself, even though I know I didn't want this. I don't know if I should tell him. The answer is no. I don't know if I should. The answer is absolutely, unequivocally no. I'm scared and really angry at him for putting me in this situation. Truth is, he doesn't know and he doesn't care. This won't impact him at all. He only cared about his own pleasure. I find it very difficult sometimes to trust my judgment in relationships. I always wonder if I'm the one overreacting. I always put their needs above my needs and my pleasure. I need some help. Thank you so much. This is what women are socialized to do, to put men's needs above our own, to be more accommodating to their feelings. Saying no just feels weird at times because we haven't practiced it enough. We haven't been given the tools that we need to have boundaries. And like wearing somebody down after asking and asking and asking, and then she eventually gives in, that's not active consent. And I'm glad that she said in the very first paragraph that she just ended a really toxic relationship. I'm glad that she ended it. She knew that she needed to end it. Now she's just replaying things in her mind if she did the right thing. But there were a series of things where she needed to be stronger. And the reason why, and I am not here to dump on this young lady. I am absolutely not. This is a teaching tool for us going forward and for the women that have daughters. So daughters, younger cousins, younger sisters, whatever. We need to talk about boundaries, being assertive, and after our boundaries are crossed, being good with blocking and breaking up. Because that's what, like, whatever we're seeing, and we keep seeing this over and over and over, where women are doubting their own voices. And we need to get to the point where we are instilling a sense of self-confidence in the ladies in our lives, because some of them are being socialized to not have any confidence, and we're not being socialized or raised to have that sense of self-preservation that I was talking about. She says, I find it very difficult sometimes to trust my judgment in relationships. And I'm sure it might even be tough for her to trust her judgment in other ways as well. Because, like, let's say you came from a household where you didn't have choices or opinions, you couldn't voice anything. It would make you second guess yourself if somebody is pushing past your no. You would just give in. If you didn't have any choices when you were growing up and you just had to give in, that leads into the lack of capacity to do your own decision making as a young adult. Let's look at some of the comments. Slightly obtrusive mom says, don't ever put yourself in danger, including the danger of getting pregnant for someone else's pleasure. Assuming you're in a safe state, call Planned Parenthood now. If you're not, can you travel to somewhere safe? And you're not overreacting. I would try therapy before you date or hook up again. You need a chance to think through why you do that. You can get better at saying no. So she says, here's the OP. I don't live in the States, and my country is very pro-abortion, luckily. So she'll be able to take care of this. She's just upset with herself for getting to this point anyway. So it does not sound like she plans on keeping this, letting this pregnancy go to term. Obviously, the OP is in a fragile state. So with Bird on the Wind coming in like this, just listen. Bird on the Wind says, why the F you with the guy that cheated on you and pushed you to not use condoms? Tell him to take a hike and check if you need to take Plan B. Don't have a child with this bum. Like, I get it. You want to come in strong, but like something about, yeah. That's just horrible. You can't say that without being like, why the, like, she might as well have said, you're a dummy. But here's the OP. She says, I'm obviously not with him anymore and broke up as soon as I figured out he cheated on me. She did say that I broke up with, I just ended a toxic relationship. She said that in the very beginning. Sometimes other women can be kind of mean-spirited when it comes to delivering these comments, and I just don't like it. That's the reason why I am how I am on my pages. Yes, we can have, like, there's a way to have that conversation without being such an a-hole about it. Which Kid Did It says, you need those pills ASAP. In my state, it will take a two-day drive for safe medical care. This type of man will only seek pleasure and will not take responsibility. Take care and be safe, especially if you're in a restricted state. And she says, luckily, I don't live in the States. Thank you for the advice. Can't even imagine how stressful this situation would be if I was living in the US. And this type of situation is precisely why I am pro-choice. I know that some women will want to keep the pregnancy and carry the pregnancy to term. But if you were coerced, if you were nagged down, if a man pulled the condom off, then those women, they did not consent to this. And being worn down is not active consent. 16 Freckles says, you do not need to tell him. You cannot afford this child and you are not in a good position for that. He manipulated you and will continue to manipulate you if you tell him you may be pregnant. Don't do it. He only cares about himself. You have the right to choose what to do with your life. Please don't choose him. Good luck. Tired as F says, great advice, and don't get caught again. His needs don't outweigh your safety. His needs don't outweigh your safety. Think about your self-preservation. Think about your future self. Family planning is financial planning, and sometimes things like this happens. And this is the reason why we need to continue to build community, because we need a way to reach out. This woman is in a country where she can get the care that she needs. But we need to continue to build our network here in the States, because women and girls won't always be able to get the care that they need. So we need to be able to talk to each other and find trusted people where we can help people get the care that they need. Anyways, join the conversation. Let me know what you think about all of this. Keep talking, keep talking mindfully to where people feel comfortable sharing with you. And that's it. Don't forget to talk to your teens, though. Talk to your teens. Talk to the ladies that are about to go off to college. Let's help build some assertiveness and self-confidence in our girls. Don't forget to like, comment, and share. So the authorities released supposed text messages between Tyler Robinson and his lover. And I'm reading this and I'm like, this is totally believable. I mean, you know, who doesn't send all of this in text message and use proper grammar with all of the quotations and all of that? So let's read this together. Robinson, drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. When roommate looked under the keyboard, there was a note that allegedly read, I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk and I'm going to take it. Roommate, what? You're joking, right? Robinson, I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck in Orem for a little while longer yet. Shouldn't be long until I come home, but I gotta grab my rifle still. To be honest, I had hoped to keep the secret till I died of old age. I'm sorry to involve you. Roommate, you weren't the one who did it, right? I am. I'm sorry, roommate. I thought they caught the person. Robinson, no, they grabbed some crazy old dude, then interrogated someone in similar clothing. I had planned to grab my rifle from my drop point shortly after, but most of that side of town got locked down. It's quiet, almost enough to get out, but there's one vehicle lingering. Roommate, why? Robinson, why did I do it? Roommate, yeah. Robinson, I had enough of his hatred. Some hate can't be negotiated out. Robinson, if I'm able to grab my rifle unseen, I will have left no evidence. Going to attempt to retrieve it again. Hopefully they have moved on. I haven't seen anything about them finding it. Roommate, how long have you been planning this? Robinson, a bit over a week, I believe. I can get close, but there is a squad car parked right by it. I think they already swept that spot, but I don't want to chance it. Robinson, I'm wishing I had circled back and grabbed it as soon as I got to my vehicle. I'm worried what my old man would do if I didn't bring back Grandpa's rifle. I don't even know if it had a serial number, but it wouldn't trace to me. I worry about prints. I had to leave it in a bush where I changed outfits. Didn't have the ability or time to bring it with. I might have to abandon it and hope they don't find prints. How the expletive will I explain losing it to my old man? Only thing I left was the rifle wrapped in a towel. This is hilarious, and I'm totally sure that this happened. Remember how I was engraving bullets? The expletive messages are mostly a big meme. If I see notices bulge UWU on Fox News, I might have a stroke. All right, I'm going to have to leave it. That really blanking sucks. Judging from today, I'd say Grandpa's gun does just fine. I don't know. I think that was a $2,000 scope. Robinson, delete this exchange. Robinson, my dad wants photos of the rifle. He says Grandpa wants to know who has what. The feds released a photo of the rifle and it is very unique. He's calling me right now, not answering. Robinson, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty diehard MAGA. Robinson, I'm going to turn myself in willingly. One of my neighbors here is a deputy for the sheriff. Roommate, I'm much more worried about you. Robinson, don't talk to the media, please. Don't take any interviews or make any comments. If police ask you any questions, ask for a lawyer and stay silent. And scene. Cut the cameras. That's it. It just all goes black. Now we need to have a discussion. Who believes that some 22-year-olds are actually typing like that? This person on Thread says this was Kash Patel last night writing the text messages. And here we have Carrie Bradshaw at her laptop typing things up because, yeah, that's what it sounds like. Terrible fiction. It sounds like somebody who really has no clue how young people talk is sitting up here trying to act like there's some young people. Like what would young people say? I'm putting on my young people hoodie. Okay, what as I type on my typewriter, double space, putting in all of the punctuation marks. Lover, hi, my love. Nix Rilla says, dearest trans lover, it's been 1 week, I think, since I planned this assassination. I just could no longer bear to tolerate such hatred and chose to end it forthwith. You, my roommate, who is also my trans lover, should know what 'tis your dearest trans lover boy who pulled the trigger on that fateful afternoon. 'Twas not the elderly man who they hastily blamed. Alas, my old man may lose himself at the news that I used the rifle my grandfather bequeathed to his heirs. I shall now turn in. All right, Keith Edwards says, Kash Patel's evidence. Shooter, hello, homosexual lover. I just committed the murder, but I am trying to cover up my tracks. Roommate, what? Murder? I am worried. Shooter, yes, I committed the crime and I'm trying to clean up the evidence for my crime. All right, Britt says, ChatGPT, please write a text exchange between two 60-year-old men from the 1880s regarding murder, most foul. And then this person says, done, and gives us some threads. Let's read these together. Yet another Tyler Robinson text. I cannot but lament with some vexation that I did not simply turn back the moment I reached my carriage to secure the wretched thing. My father's displeasure, should I fail to restore my grandfather's rifle, promises to be far more formidable than any public discovery of it. Whether it bears a number, I cannot say, but surely no one of consequence could trace it to me. The greater concern lies, my love, with any impressions I may have inconsiderately left upon it. In my haste, I was compelled to deposit it in a bush, a most inelegant hiding place, whilst I exchanged my garments. Time and circumstance offered me no better choice. I may be forced to relinquish it entirely and place my confidence in their indifference. Heaven knows how I am to tell such a tale to my father. The rifle, I assure you, is at least decorously wrapped in a towel. People don't believe that Tyler Robinson wrote the text messages released today, but the FBI has incontrovertible proof. Footage. This is the footage. Footage of Robinson composing them. This happened just like this. Keep in mind that Tyler Robinson is 22. As a 22-year-old white man says, I am still okay, my love, but I'm stuck. And then talking about vehicles. What 22-year-old is talking about vehicles? I am stuck, yet still. My vehicle is over yonder. Put this right here. Drop what you're doing. Look under my keyboard. Who has a whole note? I had the opportunity to take out Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to take it. He wrote that on a note and put it underneath a keyboard. We have more unseriousness. Hello J Black says, the dialogue in that supposed Tyler Robinson text message exchange is terrible. And keep in mind, I write Lifetime movies. Caladin's SB says, see you at the sock hop for some delicious malts. Toots. We got this thread at the bottom. It says, Charlie Kirk is a champion of free speech, and if you disagree, you're going to jail. This person is responding to the person that said that they write Lifetime movies, saying, it'll never work, Tyler. I'm just a transgender Christmas tree farmer from the country that likes my life the way it is, and you're a big city boy with a high-powered rifle always on the run. Lance doesn't tell Tyler that he sold his fruitcake recipe to a big conglomerate and is secretly a millionaire. Now, I am wondering how the writers of like Law and Order or CSI or anybody is watching this and reading this. Anybody that's ever watched any of these crime dramas, anybody that's watched TV at all is sitting up here wondering, what the hell is this? And who is giving out, what criminal is sitting up here text messaging all of the information? Y'all weigh in and let me know what you think about this one. It took me so many takes to read this because as I was reading this, I couldn't stop laughing. This is ridiculous. This is dumb. And I cannot believe that these people are supposedly running the FBI.